Hello, friends. Um, Decided to make a video in regards to an experience I just had, and kind of going over the past 5 years of what I've been doing. Um, Many of you kind of know that I went out of the working world, and I've started to be a seeker, and it was quite interesting how that all happened. But 6 months of taking time off of work in Australia. 5 years later, I'm still seeking spiritually, and it's been one hell of a journey, that's for sure. Um, I wanted to make this video, I guess, just to inspire, explain. Hopefully, I'm making it from the heart and not from the ego. Um, yeah, it's been a very interesting experience of kind of going within myself. It's been extraordinary to see many paths of spirituality and in self-realization and trying to liberate your mind of, you know, harmful thoughts and just to be more at peace. But for me, everything kind of started uh, out of those 6 months. I ended up doing Vipassana meditation for 10 days, and then I also did ayahuasca in Peru, and that changed me quite a bit. It shifted my perspective on what the nature of reality is, and kind of a longing to understand knowledge in real truth, rather than, I guess, living in the matrix of the material world. And so I searched and I went through many different paths, a lot of yogic paths, past bhakti yoga, the devotional service to the divine, like the Hare Krishnas you see on the streets. There would be bhakti yogis. Of course, hatha yoga, which is traditional. A lot, what you know with hatha is probably yoga poses and things like that. A lot of clearing of the body, cleanses and whatnot. I went through jhana yoga, which is direct knowledge, which I'll go into much later, kind of explaining the 49-day of silent retreat I just got out of, which was quite extraordinary. Um, but yeah, it's been 5 years of India, Bali, just going around the world, Tibet, just staying with the monks within the Tibetan tradition. I got to experience a lot of different paths. Even kind of touching base on Christianity, which I kind of put aside because I was raised Catholic. And there's many different paths to to God, you can say, yeah. And and there a lot of them are quite beautiful. But I guess what I want to talk to you about is what I just went through. So going through a lot of ashrams and meditation centers, pretty much everywhere. Um, I accumulated. I was doing 10-day retreats to get in touch, to go within. And I found this place in Mexico called Hridaya Yoga, and it was quite amazing to me because it focused on the science behind spirituality. It really focused on all the paths in showing, in kind of illuminating these saints, seekers, mystics, sages that have raised their level of consciousness and that have escaped the torment of the mind. And it's beautiful. I did a 10-day and I fell in love with this place. And then I was going to do a 17-day retreat 2 years ago. Then COVID happened. And so that prompted me to go back to Australia. And so I waited to come back here. But during that time in Australia, I actually spent 6-7 months in an ashram with the Hare Krishnas, which was beautiful as well. Yeah, another beautiful path, definitely. But I ended up coming back to Mexico. I've been here now for about 3 months, 3 or 4 months, and I got accepted into the 49-day retreat. So they do this annually, once a year. There was 13 of us, and it was definitely full on. And so I'll kind of lay out the logistics on what it is. But 10 days is with a regular meditation retreat, and then the other 39 we went up into the mountains. And this place where I'm at right now is in the state of Oaxaca, and the mountains are around the Oaxaca mountains are about 7,000 feet of elevation. And during this retreat, there's a few austerities that are taken. Hey friends, I actually had to wait a few days to re-film the rest of this because my neighbors came back the day I was doing it. But getting back to where we left off in regards to the austerities that are taken during a silent meditation retreat. So obviously there's no speaking, there's no eye contact, there's no acknowledging of other people. There's actually no reading. There's no sexual contact of any time, even with yourself. And there's no mirrors, so you can't look at yourself. Obviously now I have a beard after 50 days. And so those are just kind of touching on the point of it's all about going within and blocking out all distractions that would stop that. And so now I guess I'll just really talk about how I felt during the retreat, and then I'll go into an invitation to about your own practice. But yeah, the retreat itself was definitely full on. It was once again a 10-day retreat with a group of people. So it was a big container there where you're able to meditate with everybody, and then it was guided. But the 39 days was in solitude and confinement in a cabin in the mountains. So you had to really rely on your own practice, which was quite difficult. But the first 10 days was beautiful. I really felt, went deep within meditation, but something happened on the 7th day. I kind of, I had a cleansing of some sort. Day 7, I got really ill, and I actually got nauseous and had to leave the hall, and I ended up puking and getting a fever and shaking uncontrollably for about 4 hours. But during that, there was an emotional cleanse as well. So I was actually crying, and I don't know what was happening to me. It was really just full on. But after 4 hours, I whatever passed, and I felt good enough to go back to the hall. On day 10, we actually got shuttled up to the mountains, which was about a 4-hour drive, and to settle in these cabins that we were in. There's no power. You have to start your own fire, and meals were brought to us twice a day, and they rang a little bell, so you literally saw nobody. We were actually told to stay in our cabins, and that's what kind of threw me off, because I didn't realize there was solitude and confinement together, which was quite difficult. And if you weren't ready for it, it was quite depressing at first, but it all worked out for myself. I got in on a routine, and every 3 days I went outside and got sun, and it was definitely full on. But during these retreats, you're able to watch the mind. And for a jnana yogi, it's all about being the observer and going within and trying to realize that you're not this body, you're not this mind. The path of self-realization is figuring out what you're not. And you have to do it that way because the mind can't comprehend anything else. It only knows this reality. It only knows what we're in right now. And so it is quite extraordinary to watch the thoughts that came up. And for me, it was mostly fears and desires, because it tried to hijack the meditation. It tried to make the mind try to make itself relevant once again. So in day 21, I was having issues with the dream state. So when I was sleeping, I'd wake up and my dreams would carry on into the morning. And so to keep on with the practice in the morning was quite difficult. Because of this, of the dreams being up front and present, so it was very, very hard to get back into a meditative state. And so what I was subscribed to was to do sublimation work. So we had about 4 times we were able to write our retreat leader and a note, and then he'll write us a hand note back about 4 days later. So I was prescribed sublimation work, which essentially is a lot of breath work, and it's holding it's moving the energy up and down the chakras. So it's to describe this is there's something a yoga pose called the Uddiyana Bandha, which I was doing 30 minutes of it, sucking the stomach in, holding the breath, moving the energy, and I almost passed out a number of times. But when I got close to passing out, I went to a void state where um, I didn't feel anything. There was no thoughts there, and so I was kind of flirting with that practice and getting close to passing out. I used to fall down to my knees. But after 15 days, I realized that, it was probably best not to get that close to that state. But it helped a little bit, but the voices in the mind were still there. And so coming up on day 30 is very difficult because, you're more than halfway in, but you realize, man, I got another 20 days of this. And so that was difficult, but day by day, you go with it. For me, I realized that if I stopped the practice, it would be bad news. I would go, just laying in bed would not work. I would go, it would be dark. And so I had the fortitude and the knowledge of 38 years old now, of knowing if I just keep on going, it will be all right. I'll come through the other end. And so that's what I did, and it was beautiful. In the 40s, I started going outside the last week of the retreat, and I did a few hikes. Wow, nature in a sensitive state like I was in, everything becomes alive. And it's interesting because I used to make fun of hippies and never understood the term tree hugger. People that used to take drugs, psychedelics, and go hug trees. But the state that I was in, I could actually feel energy coming off the trees. Everything was so vibrant. It was like going into high definition, and everything was alive. And it was quite extraordinary. But eventually, that now has passed, unfortunately. But I'm still quite sensitive, very, very sensitive to a lot of things, a lot of noises. I can barely speak the first day coming out. And so all in all, this has been a great experience, I would say. It's something that's allowed me to understand what I am and observe this meat suit that I was born into. Because as we all know, you take on a lot of genetic karma, I would say, from your parents and from humanity, 350,000 years of evolution. And then from there, our society, the schooling, our parents, the way they were raised, everything adds on to layers of this programming. And so these past 5 years, I've been defragging. I've been able to try to undo traumas and release them, either in this life or another. And it's been quite extraordinary just to go through this process and see how many different paths lead to the same thing. I was never religious before this, but there is salvation in Jesus Christ, and I can see how the Buddha sat underneath the Bodhi tree and reached a state of liberation of the mind. And it's beautiful. It's just, I went trading this 5 years for the world. I know I've been losing on the monetary side, but at least that's what my mind's been telling me. But what I've gained spiritually, what I've gained, what I've gone through is been great. I'm not trying to bloviate, but it's just an invitation for others to go within, because the society that we live in now is we never had it so easy. We have the comforts of everything, but the mind is quite disturbed, obviously, from many things: our phones, messages, social media, trying to get everything done as quick as possible. And then, of course, the situation with food now. Past 50 years, no one questions what the hell's going on, why everyone's, getting fat and losing years on their life. And so there's a lot of pitfalls. And so these past 5 years, I've just been really trying to find shortcuts and hacks to feel better within. And so if any of you guys need any advice, I'm offering it for anything: meditation centers, travel, diet, health, cleansing, parasitic cleansing. I've done it all. And but it's really about an invitation for whatever path you choose, just to start looking within, because once you look at the observer, once you have that I am feeling and realizing that you're detached from the body and the mind, it will change you forever. Many of you know me as a sales director or in sales, trying to make as much money as possible. And yeah, things have shifted, and so I have no idea what I'm doing next. I know that it's been 5 years now. It's time for a new project, and I'll have to make some money. But we'll see. There is a calling to do one last bit of traveling, maybe go to Israel and see where Christ was crucified, then go to the Bodhi tree where Buddha was enlightened, and go to Vrindavan where Krishna came down 5,000 years ago. There's just, to me, it's been fascinating to go over all these paths. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'll leave it with a few quotes. And this quote is from a Indian saint that I look up to. His name is Maharshi. And so he was a path of a jnana yogi. So once you realize that the person is merely a shadow of reality, but not reality itself, you cease to fret and worry. You agree to be guided from within, and life becomes a journey into the unknown. And so I feel that's kind of what I've been after, is releasing of the mind and being in the flow of things, and stepping away from myself and letting life take on its own meaning, and letting go. It's about that surrender, and I didn't touch base on this, but a massive spiritual segment of almost every path is the surrender to divine, the surrender to the higher self, the surrender to God. And I'm learning to do that now, because I never surrendered to anybody, and the mind wouldn't let me allow to. And so once things have shifted quite a bit, and so I'm quite excited to move forward. But anyhow, I'll end my rambling, and I hope, if you got this email, if you got this video, just know I want the best for you. I don't know if I'll put this on social media, because I'm not a fan, really. But we'll see. All right. I love you all.